This is modern day Sonic, but 30 years ago, he used to look like this. And today I'm going back to the 90s and completing the original Sonic 1. Man, it just really doesn't get much better than that intro. Alright, we're starting off with Green Hill Zone Act 1. This is where it all begins. You hit the ground running. Immediately as you load up the game. Loops, ramps, enemies that explode into tiny little birds. Yeah, it's basically platforming heaven. You really can speedrun this game in under a minute if you really know what you're doing. And of course, I do. The only problem with this is one wrong jump and you're swimming in spikes. It's just classic first level vibes, man. That's level done. Alright, Act 2. It's more speed, it's more springs. And I started realizing in this level that just literally holding the joystick and running isn't always going to be my best bet in this level. Especially during this part right here where I had to back all the way back here to just run up this hill. It kind of sucked. Still, it's super fun. You just running through the loops, hitting the springs, finding all the little hidden things in this level. Still, same rules apply. If you make a wrong jump, still swimming in spikes. Happens throughout basically the whole Green Hill Zone. Shibuya. Alright, this is the last act in the Green Hill Zone, and you can definitely tell things get a little trickier in this act. The spikes are more in tight places, the platforming ramps up, and then, boom, first boss fight of the game. Robotnik swings out of nowhere with a wrecking ball like he's in the Miley Cyrus music video, and then you just gotta jump on your head a few times. One boss down, 6 more zones to go. Bro, I thought it was like 3 bounces and he's dead. Finally, bro. Yeah, get out of here, bro. Run away. Yeah, let me go save these animals, bro. They deserve it. Evil dude, bro. Alright, welcome to the Marble Zone, where Sonic trades his speed for, basically patience. Yeah, this game literally goes, remember how fast you were going in Green Hill? Forget all about that. Right out the gate, you notice that everything's slowed down. You're navigating ancient ruins filled with lava, bad traps, crushing platforms. It's a total tone shift from the fast loops and springboards of Green Hill. But I guess it's kind of smart because it tests your gaming abilities. Sonic can go fast, but if you go fast here, you're toast. Literally, you will end up in the lava. The first major hazard of this level is that the platforms over the lava. They flow back and forth, and if you don't wait for the right moment, you're swimming in magma. You'll learn quickly timing is everything in this stage. And oh, those caterpillar enemies, total jerks. Hit them in the wrong spot, and they spike you for it. About halfway in, the level introduces you to push blocks. You need to push the stone onto switches or rides so that you can slowly drag you over the lava. It's tense because the lava is always just a second behind you. You're never just standing still. You're literally sweating. There's always a secret area near the ceiling if you bounce off certain enemies to take a high route where you can grab extra rings and a shield. It's always worth it. The higher paths in Marble Zone usually reward exploration with safety and way fewer traps. You close out the act with a few more fire traps and maybe a leap over faith over some more lava pits. If you play it smart and keep your rings, you'll be rewarded to access to a special stage ring at the end, but if you rush it, you'll probably lose everything to a very sneaky lava splash right at the finish. Marble Zone Act 1 is all about learning restraint if you want to be careful, observant, and patient. And if you're not, it's a very, very painful, hot lesson. For time's sake, I'm gonna skip Marble Zone Act 2. It's more of the same. The only new really cool feature is that when you jump on these blocks, the lava watch this. It basically just jumps you forward. Yeah. Alright, the final act of the Marble Zone, and it's a gauntlet. No warm-up this time. They throw you straight into lava traps, crushing ceilings, and time jumps. This act is tight, calculated, and full of stress. Early on, there's this bit where the ceiling moves and the floor moves also in sync with the ceiling. You have to dash under them at just the right moment or you get squashed. It's more puzzling than platforming. Then when you move to the section with slower moving platforms over lava, fireballs flying from both directions and enemies waiting to knock you off mid-jump. Sonic may just be the fastest thing alive, but here rushing equals dying. And one of the meanest tricks in this game is the spite picks that look like normal ground. If you're not paying attention, you just fall straight through. The game really starts to play with your expectations in Act 3. But finally, you make it out of the ruins, but now you have to face Robotnik. But I must say, this boss is pretty clever. He flies back and forth above the lava, using his fire pod to drop flames onto the platforms. One bad jump and you're swimming in molten doom again. The strategy, stay on the edge of the platforms, wait for him to hover over one, strike before the flames fall. It takes patience and timing, just like the rest of this zone. You've got a narrow window to land the hits, but once you do 6 times, he flies off like a coward, and you get free more trapped animals. Good for Sonic. Alright, so now we're in the Spring Yard Zone. We kind of have our speed back because Act 1 opens up with the bright lights, the funky music, and a skyline in the background. It looks like a fun amusement park or a casino, but don't let that fool you. This place is full of traps. The first thing you'll notice, springs, hence the name. They're launching you up, sideways, into bumpers, into enemies, you name it. But this time they're not just here for fun. They're here to mess with your rhythm. And if you don't time your jumps right, you'll bounce around like a pinball and fall into a pit. Or worse, you'll fall into some spikes. And then we've got our little crab meats, except this time they've been upgraded. They shoot you now. And since Sonic is so bouncy here, it's easy to land right into one. You've got to read the screen a little more than this usual. A standout moment is the collapsing platforms near the middle of the stage. You're forced to either charge through or time your jumps perfectly, or else you just fall into a pit below full of enemies and spike traps. The game's giving you choices, but neither one is easy. Yeah, and by the end of Act 1, you'll start to realize Spring Yard isn't as fun as flashy as Green Hill Zone. It's deceptive, and there's danger behind these lights. You've got to stay sharp as Sonic if you want to survive this one. Alright, Act 2 kicks it up a notch. The pace is faster and the traps come quicker. The platforming gets tighter right at the start. You've already been launched through strings and flying across a huge gap. It feels great until you smack into a spiked bumper. And let's talk about those bumpers. They're not friendly kind of pinball machine bumpers. Some are placed right next to pits or enemies, turning into looks like a fun bounce into a depth trap. It's very trial and error. The act punishes players who rush without watching. Midway through, there's a really cool set piece with elevators that like go up and down in sync, and you've got to hop between them to climb a shaft while dodging enemies and making pixel-perfect jumps. And if you mess up, you fall all the way down and have to do it again. It's tense, honestly. Yo, bro, Sonic is not a pinball, bro. Yeah, I got a little mad at this pinball factor, but at least it made my score go up. Anyway, there's also fake floors in this act. Yeah, platforms that look solid but drop right from under your feet the second you step on them. If you're not careful, they'll drop you through into enemies or bottomless pits. At this point, the game's teaching you to trust absolutely nothing. You know what else gets trickier? The ring placement. A lot of them are right over hazards or next to enemies, baiting you into risky moves. The devs were definitely having fun with this one. By the time you reach the goalpost, your nerves are probably fried, but if you held on to enough rings, you get another shot at the special stage zone. Alright, Act 3, and trust me, this act is honestly the challenge. This is where all the tricks from Acts 1 and 2 come together. More spring traps, more fake floors, and this time vertical platforming gets real serious. And obviously at the end of the stage, we're going to have another boss fight. So, before we get to that, the stage starts off fine. Bounce pads, enemies, some rings. But when you hit a section of narrow ledges with spike balls swinging back and forth, one wrong step and you're either knocked into a pit, hit mid-jump, or the game is pushing you timing here. About halfway through the act, there's a cruel bit on a conveyor belt and it leads you straight into the crusher. You've got to stop, jump off early, and land on a tiny moving platform, or you're scrap metal. And those buzz bombers, they love to snipe you when you're mid-air, and it's just an insult to injury. Alright, let's talk about this boss fight. You drop down into an arena and Robotnik shows up with a new gimmick. This time he's got a drill on his hover machine and starts removing the floor one chunk at a time. It's like that one Fall Guys jump level if there wasn't a thing trying to hit you off. Anyway, if you stand on the top for too long, you fall into a pit and it's over. So the pressure's on. You've got to bait him into hovering low, jump and hit it, and retreat before the floor underneath you disappears. You're juggling survival with offense this whole time. It's one more of those creative bosses. Pretty tense if you happen to be low on lives. Beat him and the capsule opens, you get to save more animals, more progress made, but if you thought Spring Bars was intense, just wait till we get to the underwater segments. Alright, the Labyrinth Zone Act 1. Welcome to pain, because right off the bat, the game throws out the speed, the loops, and everything you know about Sonic. Forget about it, because we're underwater now, and Sonic handles water like a wet brick. The level starts teasing you a couple times with a few seconds of dry ground, then boom, you're underwater again, and once you're submerged, you move slower, you jump lower, and everything feels heavy. The big threat here isn't even the enemies, it's the air. Since Sonic can't breathe underwater, you constantly have to hunt for those precious bubbles. You hear gloop, 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 glug, glug sound and wait, hoping one spawns before the dreaded countdown music kicks in. I swear, this music was haunting me throughout the entire game. Alright, enough of the Sonic trauma, let's talk level design. You've got the vertical shafts full of traps, pressure switches that open doors, and water currents that pull you into spikes. There are long stretches where if you don't memorize the route, you'll drown, and it's just add to insult to injury. Robot fish and spear traps everywhere. There's also an optional upper path early in the level, but you can avoid some underwater sections. The final stretch of this level is brutal. You've got spikes, moving platforms, and just enough time to grab a bubble before the finish line. And if you make it with 5th ranks, you can earn your shot at the Chaos Emerald. But even if you don't, surviving this act is a win by itself. Alright, Act 2, and somehow this one's even worse. This one has more underwater navigation, more traps, and somehow it's even slower than the last one. And because it's so slow, I'm low-key about to speed up this section of the video, and I'm about to get to the boss fight, because I don't like the labyrinth zone, and I don't want this video being over an hour long. Alright, next boss fight that isn't really a boss fight at all. Robotnik appears at the top of the shaft, and instead of attacking, he starts rising, and the entire room fills with water. The only goal is to catch up without getting crushed or drowned. There's flamethrowers lining in the wall, collapsing platforms, and no rings at all. One mistake and you're done. It's a race against rising water and panic. And again, that drowning music starts playing for a second, your air runs out, it just drives the tension through the roof. To win, you have to memorize the route, nail your jumps, and just stay behind Robotnik without getting hit by the flames. If you make it to the top, he runs away like the little coward that he is, and you finally escape the labyrinth. Finally. Finally, after all the suffering, the drowning, and the constant stress, we're in the stars. This zone is such a breath of fresh air. The music is mellow, the lights are glowing, and you can finally go fast again. Thank you, Sega. Right off the bat, you're sprinting across the bright, metallic platforms suspended into a nighttime skyline. It's fast and fluid, and for the first time in a while, Sonic actually feels like Sonic again. The loops are back, the half pipes return, and the stage design is wide open, perfect for building momentum, but that doesn't mean it's easy, because there's traps here too, just more cleverly disguised. Let's talk hazards. First up, those spike balls that hang from above swing back and forth, and they're often placed in the middle of high-speed sections. You're boosting forward and bam, smacked right in the face if you're not paying attention. Alright, and even more than so, one of the coolest mechanics in this act is the teeter-totters. You land on one side and the spike ball drops from the other. The trick is you use the momentum to launch yourself high into the air, and you can use them to just skip dangerous sections entirely. It's a great blend of physics and fun. There's even a couple hidden one-up boxes and shield pickups if you take your time to explore the alternate paths. This zone rewards curiosity way more than the previous ones did. Act 1 ends with a satisfying sprint towards the goalpost, and if you manage to hold on to your 50 rings, you're back into the special stage grind. The act is smooth, stylish, and a perfect reset after everything the labyrinth zone put you through. Alright, Starlight Zone, Act 2. Act 2 of Starlight Zone is where the difficulty starts creeping back in, but it's still smooth sailing compared to what came before. You're moving faster and jumping higher than ever before, and weaving through obstacles with style until the trap kicks in. This act starts a deceptively calm sequence. You're sprinting down slopes, jumping across gaps, and everything feels like it's working. But before long, spike balls are back, and they're less forgiving, and few are tucked right at the end of speed ramps, so if you don't hit the brakes in time, say goodbye to those rings. And in this act, there's a lot more versatility here. You'll find yourself climbing, scaffolding, hopping on small platforms above the city skyline. These tight jumps make it easy to fall back down and repeat the whole section just for your timing's off. It's a real momentum killer, but it's a clever one. More teeter-totters show up in this act too, but this time they're not just fun launch pads, they're placed right next to spike pits. So if you miss your landing or trigger the seesaw wrong, you're going straight down. The risk-reward balance is way sharper now. Another obstacle that shows up here are bomb enemies. They roll around looking harmless, then suddenly flash and explode. The timing's right, you're trying to keep your 50 range for a special stage, and they're your worst nightmare. Oh, and let's not forget the return of the fans. Some are placed in long straightaways where you're trying to build speed and they cut off your momentum, push you back, and force you to adjust your rhythm again. It's subtle, but it totally messes with your flow. By the end, you're flying across ramps, leaping between suspended platforms, and racing toward that goalpost with a grin. This act is perfect mix of chill and challenge. It keeps you on your toes, but lets you breathe. Starlight Act 3 is the final lap before the endgame, and you can feel it. The stage feels sleek and smooth, but now there's sharper ice to everything. More hazards, tighter jumps, and a boss that actually makes you think. The act starts with a downhill sprint, classic Sonic energy. You're running at full speed, bouncing between springs and dodging spike balls, and hitting loops that toss you across the screen. It's fast and satisfying, but if you're not careful, it'll turn on you quickly. This act is full of death pit, no second chances. One misstep on a narrow platform or a mistimed jump, and that's it, you're done. Combine that with spinning fans and narrow edges, and it suddenly feels a lot more intense. The level design here really emphasizes player control. You need to manage momentum carefully. Go too slow and you won't make the jump, but if you go too fast, you'll fly off the edge. Starlight isn't texting your reflexes as much as it is your precision. Now let's talk about the boss. It's easily one of the most creative in the game. Robotnik flies in, same as always, but this time he doesn't attack with weapons. Instead, there are teeter-totters below him, just like the ones from the level before. He drops spike bombs on one end, and you have to jump on one on the other end to launch the bombs back at him. No jumping on him, just physics. The timing is tricky. You've got to lure the bombs close, position yourself on the right spot, and if you don't launch them back up without getting hit, it's a thinking boss fight. And if you play it well, you don't even have to jump. You can beat him just using the seesaws. And after all this, he bails yet again, and you hit him with the capsule to free the animals. It's clean, it's clever, that's the calm before the storm. Because next, we're heading into Scrap Zone. The final zone before the final boss fight. Hey guys, so editor me here, and I was recording the whole Sonic gameplay on my Apple TV and realized I did not record Scrapyard Zone 1, so here's Act 2. Alright, Scrapper in Act 2, because right away, you're dodging rotating gears and walking across tight beams with no room to move. If you fall off, you land in areas filled with electric arcs and moving platforms, and the catch, the platforms move just fast enough to trick you, but slow enough to frustrate you. There's always conveyor belts in reverse now. You're trying to move forward, but the level itself pushes you back into traps. Then they throw spike crushers and flamethrowers because why not? At this point, the level design just wants you to mess up, and when it do, it stings. About midway through this act is a section with a tiny elevator that slowly brings you up while buzz saws swipe across your path. One mistake and you drop down again. It's a patience test, but it's also punishing you if you don't know what's coming. One of the coolest moments is near the end of the act, a platforming section over instant death pits with crushers that come in at random intervals. If you try to rush it, you die. If you hesitate, you die. It's brutal. And then, when you think it's over, you drop into a dark chamber and the floor vanishes beneath you. A trapdoor, the screen fades to black, and suddenly you're not in the scrap ring anymore. You're in a labyrinth zone, but worse. Alright, Scrapper in Zone Act 3. We are back in hell because you're back underwater, moving slow and trying not to drown. But this time there are no air bubbles. The level wants you to speedrun your way through just to survive. Every section is packed with spike traps, crushing walls, underwater conveyor belts that push you into hazards. Let's be real, this act feels like a punishment. If you made it here without a lot of lives or continues, you're sweating. Every second counts and every mistake hurts. One of the most painful moments, a section with slow-moving platforms and rising tide. You're trying to move forward while dodging obstacles and hoping you don't hit a dead end. And when drowning countdown sticks, it's still pure panic mode. Enemies are placed in the most annoying spots, like Orbonauts hovering right above the narrow ledge, waiting for you to bounce into the spikes. The only way to win is to go in without knowing the layout or die trying to memorize it as you go. Eventually, if you survive the maze of underwater cruelty, you reach a dry zone, hit a teleporter, and boom, the final zone awaits. No more rings, no more safety net, it's just you and Robotnik. Alright, this is it, the final zone in Sonic 1. This is not your traditional boss fight because Robotnik is above you, hidden in a massive piston machine. 4 giant crushers slam down from the ceiling 2 at a time, completely random, and if you're under one, game over. Your only chance is to dodge. But wait, when Robotnik appears in one of the pistons, you get one shot to hit him. Miss, you have to wait again. Get crushed, it's back to the beginning. No checkpoint, no second chances. There's no time limit, but the stress builds with every phase. You're constantly dodging, weaving, listening to that rhythmic pounding of the pistons. It's a battle of nerves, and more than anything, you have to stay calm. Read the pattern and strike when it counts. After 8 clean hits, Robotnik machine sparks and explodes. He escapes in his little egg pod trying to fly away, but Sonic is right behind him. You've won. The final battle is over.